I personally think that the reason why women should not be put in position to approach a man is because they approach who they desire the most. They don't approach, he's all right. They don't approach, he's not my type, but they only approach who they are invested in their mind before they even had a full conversation with the individual. So when rejection, which is a possibility, hits them, it hits them hard because they've invested in their mind so much into this random stranger that rejection is like stubbing your toe at 3 a.m. on your way to the bathroom. Hello. Welcome back to the channel. Everything's super peachy, right? I'm going to get cut right to the chase and get right into it. Topic of this video is about the walled garden. The walled garden theory is a metaphorical concept to symbolize the protection and enclosure of women. More specifically, a closed and safeguarded space. Yes, with an idealized domestic sphere and the protection of her femininity, you're going to have some people who are going to argue that this is limiting the female's, what's the word? Autonomy. There are going to be those who argue that this concept limits women's autonomy and self-determination. But what exactly is the walled garden supposed to be protecting them from? I mean, on the screen you see this is a very archaic depiction of a walled garden. It's basically, you see that there's flourishing and growth and a larger degree of control within the walls. But if you look on the other side of the wall, it's pretty dead, barren, one would say, outside of the trees further away. But we're talking about the land. It's very unkept and possibly not providing much nutrients to anybody on the outside. Here we have the walled garden that encapsulated the Rapunzel in Tangled. And also remember, before she was in there, she was in a kingdom behind walls because she was a princess, if you saw the movie. No spoiler alerts. But why does this idea of the walled garden exist? What exactly would it be protecting females from? Maybe
For me, what I came to realize is that no, I'm not ugly, I'm not unattractive. But if you're basing it off of society standards, I feel like society mostly views me as average. I'm also self-aware in the fact that most men don't view me as a 10. And that's something that I have just accepted. I've always been in that scenario where my friends are.
okay, well, let me first state that this individual and the other individuals I'm showing to depict what is on the other side of the walled garden. It is not to demean or make fun of, harass, or any negative that could be misconstrued. They are just a easy reference for people to understand what I'm trying to convey. And what they are going through or have gone through, they're not special. They do not have a monopoly on these feelings that they are feeling. I've actually found quite a few YouTube channels depicting the same thing from various females.
Usually way more better looking than I am. You know, the only way people are gonna view you as a 10 is if you think of yourself as a 10. An unpopular opinion, I don't think that's necessarily true all the time. But just because I wake up in the morning and I tell myself that I'm a 10 does not mean I'm gonna walk out of this house and every man that looks at me is gonna think I'm a 10. That's just not realistic in my opinion. I've never been treated like I'm super attractive. Like I've never gotten any special treatment. I've never had pretty privilege. I've never had men go out of their way for me. I've never had men offer to buy me anything or pay for my food. It doesn't bother me anymore.
I mean, if you listen to what she said, everything is a comparison of herself to those outside. This is always going to be the case outside of the walled garden because the walls are there to keep not only her from seeing what's out there to compare herself to, but also to limit the amount of eyes that are looking inside to judge her. If you listen to what this individual is saying, again, she is not the author or copyright trademark holder of these feelings. If you listen to what she says, everything is and how she says it, it's about comparing and contrasting herself to others. And that feeling of I'm not whatever is the byproduct of being outside of the walled garden. I I find it hard to listen to someone not demean themselves, but to take themselves down because they're not getting results that they see others getting. It causes a stunted growth of the individual when you of the female when she is constantly seeing others having results that she yearns to have. The walled garden is there to protect from not in totality, but on such a large scale to feel outside of what would be considered acceptable. The walled garden is about protection of the mental, of the psyche, so that they're able to focus on the more important things. And yes, it's family.
Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be another controversial topic, and this one is near and dear to me because it affects me personally. We're going to be talking about being the fat friend and the effects that it has on your mental health. Nerve-wracking things ever. So if you've never seen a video from me before and you have no idea who I am, let's get a couple things out the way, right? I am on a weight loss journey. I have been since November, and it's been pretty consistent. It's been pretty good. I'm down about 12 to 13 pounds right now. Yay. Please pray for me and pray that I, keep going. But in this weight loss journey, it's really revealed a lot of things to me, and a lot of negative emotions have stirred up from me having very tough conversations with myself. And one of the things is the anxiety that I get from being the fat friend. So,
As you just heard, and there are multiple YouTube channels, multiple articles in various online magazines of females talking about being the fat friend. This is this is the byproduct of being outside of the wall. If you have ever watched some of the like in Brave, Brave, I think it was Brave with the redheaded girl. The handmaid, I believe. I can't remember her name. I'll try to slide a picture up of it later. She was very confident in herself. She did, even though she was plump, fat. You never saw that insecurity come about in that character. You say, "Oh well, they wrote her like that." But if you really think about it, there aren't a lot of people outside of her kingdom for her to compare herself to. She is protected from the onslaught of, you know, non-fat females being constantly thrown in her face. Seemed like she was getting hers. That's a whole nother subject. But the character, as she is, because she's within the confines of the castle, she is quote unquote protected by the walls, the walled garden.
Right, where's the security guard at Target, bro?
Yellow shoes, ass nigga, big pants, ass nigga, big shirt, ass nigga, little friend.
Now, didn't want to show this young lady's face because it was a little hard to watch. It was a little hard to watch. She was completely exposed, doing a job, and they went in on her because of her looks. Rod Wave is the gentleman in the left hand corner. She was getting tore up because of her appearance. This is what happens outside of the wall. This is the byproduct of not being in the walled garden. Is this helpful thus far? For this is the third individual I'm pointing out as to the negatives of being outside the walled garden. I don't think this is good for the female. I don't feel this is good for women. And yes, a loss of autonomy, but what is gained? And the negatives, don't misunderstand. This is everywhere.
What's considered pretty in China?
This fish in collarbone challenge originated in China, and it involves trying to put as many fish as possible into the collarbone area to highlight how skinny one is. Surprisingly, this isn't the first time such a trend has gone viral. Others have sprung up over the years, including trying to hold coins, lipstick, and even an egg with one's collarbone. These challenges just go to show how closely linked beauty and thinness are within Chinese beauty standards.
Now, it can easily be argued that there are negative health consequences of trying to compete in this way, but they're competing against who? It's not men, they're competing against each other. This is the byproduct of being outside of the walled garden.
But now, I don't know what is going on in my life. Like, I feel like I chose the want to live my dreams, the creative route, and I wasted so much time, and I should have went to be a nurse or something. Or
Yes, time. Time is of the essence. The walled garden is a curator of the limited amount of time one has to get on the right track. As much as it can easily be construed as about control, honestly, why do you think men want to control you just for the sake of controlling you? In mass, yeah, there are controlling men, but operating under the assumption that everything every man says that sounds like it's putting the brakes on what you want to do, why you want to do it, when you want to do it, who you want to do it with. Why is the thought that it's for your betterment never considered? Not from your father, not from your husband. Just pushback. Oh, he's trying to control me. Why do you think you're so special that any individual just wants to control you just so they could go into their dear diary? I was able to control her. I can check her off my box of women that I was able to control. Will you really don't have nothing else to do but try to control you just so they could put it in their diary?
got a corporate job or something, because now life sucks for real. Like, I don't enjoy anything about life. Like, like really never have, for the most part, like as a whole. But life is not enjoyable to me. Like, nothing about it. Like, I just get up every day and like just exist.
Who wants to just exist? The walled garden is not about providing you with the minimal things to exist within the confines of the house or the castle or whatever structure. It's not about just existing, it's about thriving and protecting you from the pains that are so present everywhere. Internet, streets, pain, misery. And for those who say, well, there'll be pain and misery behind the walled garden. If 70% of the children, if more than 15% of children are born outside of the confines of marriage, how do you know? Because I think among Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Pacific Islander, I don't think anybody is close to 10, 15%. So how do you know that you would have the same outcomes within the confines of the walled garden, i.e., under your father, and then from your father to your husband, speaking about heterosexual women only? How do you know? There's not enough females being born in the confines of the walled garden to say, oh, well, yeah, it's just the same. It's 50-50 chance. Behind the wall, outside of the wall, 50-50 chance, talking about I'm not the pretty one, I'm the fat friend, I'm the, what was the other one? I'm struggling out here by myself. How do you know it's going to be the same?
And do the things that I feel like I need to do. I go to work and then I go home get up the next day and do the same thing. Like, I'm just existing. Like, I don't know. Even with catering, like, getting a legit client is so far in between. Like, people have you, they'll ask you a bunch of questions. I'll put together like a beautiful ass menu, a quote, invite and stuff, and then maybe nothing will come of it, or you chasing people down to pay, or it's just like, and it gets to be not worth it. And that's something that I enjoy, and it makes me hate it because I do need the money. So if you reaching out to me and I'm putting in the work and then nothing comes of it, that shit is frustrating. I don't know, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, I don't know, what is everybody doing? Like, where you can afford to live life? Like, if I didn't have my car, which I'm so grateful for my car, like,
Comparing and contrast. What is everybody else doing? Because I'm having issues. What do I need to do so I can be like you? That is outside the walled garden.
I would literally be so lost. Like, I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point. But nobody else really cares, so I decided to make a video. And I get tired of hearing your time is coming, it's gonna be all right, your time coming soon, da 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 da. I'm so tired of hearing that shit. So I don't know. Are other people going through this?
If everything that she is saying in this video is true, she is super vulnerable. Super vulnerable. Lost her apartment. Seems like she might be living in her car, struggling to pay the bills. She is very vulnerable. Outside of the walled garden is very ugly and dangerous. And I know females hate that, oh, the weaker sex verbiage. I understand that. But you cannot ignore the fact that being vulnerable for a female is different than being vulnerable for a male. The walled garden is to protect that vulnerability at the cost of, quote unquote, your freedom, autonomy, and all this other stuff. But that vulnerability that exists is far worse than the loss of autonomy. Okay, what is Now let's look at what else occurs outside of the walled garden. The leggings trend is blocked from TikTok. Experts explain why it is and why it's problematic. Okay, latest body focus term, social media, blah, blah, blah. Caught on a description of the perfect or ideal size and shape of legs for wearing leggings, promoting what experts say can be an unhealthy body image. Unhealthy body image for who? Women. Outside of the walled garden, various shapes of other women, some comparing themselves, some rubbing it in the faces of others. Is this good? Because they say it's detrimental because it impact eating disorders. So again, the walled garden is explicitly for the protection of the female from the prying eyes of the world. Let's see. While some legging videos circulating on social media did feature slim legs and thigh gaps, the trend doesn't specifically exact standard for what defines legging legs category. Seemingly level, seemingly leaving the label up to others' judgment. Blah blah blah. Use certain body ideals as early in the thigh gap trend. Oh, what's the thigh gap trend? In fact, they had a trend. In fact, we can look at the Cinderella challenge. Unrealistic body image ideals for teens. Now, again, is it males saying we want girls to have the quote unquote figure of the Cinderella, or is it girls outside of the wall saying, oh, well, I got this, you don't got this? Okay, from thigh gap to the bikini bridge, unrealistic body image pressures on teens in recent years. Cinderella challenge, girls starving themselves to look more like fictional princesses. These are what is outside of the walled garden. Again, the consistent and constant bombardment of females comparing themselves to others. Get the body gauge, strenuous dieting, frustrated, start to dislike their bodies, eating disorders again. So, for example, Cinderella's weight for a woman that's 5'11". Okay, what? They have a math equation that determines that a woman who's 5'11", which is not common, would be 128 pounds. Again, talking about eating disorders. Then you have 9 out of 10 teenage girls don't like their body. Very high percentage. Be aware of that trend and talk to the girls about them. Again, this is outside of the walled garden. This is once one is placed out in the world for the world to see and for them to see the world. And I know you're going to say, well, technology is everywhere. I'm saying if instead of being hyper-focused on comparing and contrasting themselves to other individuals of similar age, they were focused on what it takes, what I need to do to start a family, they wouldn't be so focused on this because Cinderella didn't have no kids. Snow White didn't have no kids. Annie, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Rapunzel, all of those Disney characters, they didn't have kids. But if instead of being so focused on these nonsensical things, they were more so focused on following their father's instruction, heeding their father's warning. And yes, that would require them to be growing up in a household with a mother and a father who were put together for a specific purpose and not because he was in love with her. It's bigger than that. So now you got for the thigh gap, again, now they're paying money, not only putting great harm to their body, but they're also spending money to try to achieve something that nobody cares about but them. Slimmer, toned thighs, and the curviest figures. Beyonce and retailers like Target suspected of glorifying, according to them, infamous thigh gap. Women everywhere covet it. Has anybody just went out there and said, look, your body structure and your musculature that you have inherited from your family is the biggest determinant of whether or not you're going to have a thigh gap? Some girls can put their heels together and their knees don't touch. Voila, thigh gap. Some girls can put their their ankles together and their knees and still have a thigh gap. Your body is your body. You cannot, nobody says this. I haven't seen it. I'll say that. It's about the musculature and the bones and everything. Genetics. Oh, wow. Just like your boobs and your butt. But once again, another way to suck money out of women is thigh gap therapy. Really hard area to target. I don't want any major surgery like lipo or crazy, like something crazy like that. Yeah. Nice. Cold laser therapy, contour body, shrinking, flushing away fat cells. Came from spread, blah, 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 blah. Hard to get fat to get rid of. Lost more than an inch off each ankle. Oh my God. One of the thinner ankles. Y'all are getting taken for a ride. They are bleeding money out of y'all every which way possible. Because y'all are so willing to compare each other to fight for crumbs with little or no results. Other than your pockets is getting drained. And for those who say, oh, well, I got somebody, sugar daddy to pay for whatever. Until you age out. Then what you gonna do? See, results of 6 treatments. Oh, with bikini season, summertime coming up. Confidence is always the key. This is crazy. I mean, just reiterating, you got the stories of Rapunzel, Sleeping Beauty, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and, other walled garden themed movies, and Rapunzel, you had her tower, which is high off the ground, and basically nobody can get to her outside of the evil stepmother queen, whatever she was. And Sleeping Beauty, she was secluded and protected within the confines of the walled castle. You have the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Esmeralda was provided sanctuary within the walls of the cathedral. Is consistently being shown that the walled garden theory has value, provides more than it takes away. And just doing some research within other cultures, even in dating, there's a walled garden.
And they basically will know a bunch of people, right? And in theory, what's going to happen is when you are ready to start dating to get married, you are going to go to this matchmaker.
They said dating to get married, not dating to live your best life, not dating to have fun, not dating to find yourself, dating with a purpose in other culture.
And you're going to describe yourself to this person and what you're looking for. Now, you will put together a resume, and what the resume basically discloses is just basic information about you, like how to reach you or whatever, your height, and just some basic family info, your siblings, who they're married to, what they're doing, if you've graduated school or if you're in yeshiva or just in high school. The resume is of your basic background and family background. And then you include references. Now, to the right of the community, that's where it ends. You know,
That's crazy. I was kind of surprised when I heard that. A whole resume. Not only about the prospective datee, but also their family and references. That's dating with a purpose. Even though dating is outside the confines of the wall, how they set up this is a Jewish community that I want to say orthodox. Even with dating, it's still behind a wall. There is no just I'm going to look for somebody just cause. It's for the express purpose of leaving the confines of one wall to go to the confines of another wall.
don't necessarily add more. And then, you know, a lot of people add a paragraph describing themselves and then a paragraph of what they're looking for. And some people do pictures, some people don't. The right of the community does not do pictures, but the left of the community and the probably even most of the center do pictures, meaning like they will just send one picture of themselves. Usually, guy will get the girl's resume first and he will look into her and decide if he wants to go out with her. Then if he says yes, she then looks into him and decides if she wants to go out with him. Now, the reason they give the guy the girl's resume first is because the thought process is that a girl is more sensitive to a rejection than a guy would be. And therefore, if you give the girl the guy's resume first and she looks into him, decides she wants to go out with him, and then he looks into her and decides he doesn't want to go out with her, she's going to be more hurt by that rejection than a guy would be if he gave the yes first and then she gives a no. You know, of course, it would still be painful for the guy, but I guess he would tolerate it better. I don't know. I mean, in my personal opinion, it's a little bit ridiculous, but I understand the logic.
If you made it this far, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting. Now, he says he doesn't understand why the male gets first choice and then a woman gets second choice. He says he kind of understands, but how I interpret it, he seems like, oh, well, it's kind of archaic and it doesn't make sense. It's not necessary. I think it's very necessary.
So I decided to like shoot my shot, and I asked a guy, and he was so nice about it too. I appreciated how honest he was about him being in a relationship, but I don't know, he was like really attractive, and I was like, I'm gonna shoot my shot as a woman. Like, you never know until you actually go out there and like do it, right? I don't know. Like, I just feel like.
Now I'm assuming some people have seen this video before, but I personally think that the reason why women should not be put in position to approach a man is because they approach who they desire the most. They don't approach, he's all right. They don't approach, he's not my type, but they only approach who they are invested in their mind before they even had a full conversation with the individual. So when rejection, which is a possibility, hits them, it hits them hard because they've invested in their mind so much into this random stranger that rejection is like stubbing your toe at 3 a.m. on your way to the bathroom.
It hit me that, like, and I don't want to say never, you know, never is stupid. But I am like 25 and like every fucking I don't know, I just feel like I'm not like cut out for like relationships. It's like probably so stupid. I I don't know. Why can't I find my soulmate or have like this amazing partner? It just feels like it'll always be this way. And I'm just like, I don't know. The men that I do talk to, they, you know.
Outside the walled garden, you're saying that you want to take the full responsibility of whom you welcome into you. And when they are, as per her example, they ate sugar honey iced tea, that's what comes outside of the walled garden. The walled garden is to protect you from a plethora of things. Not making fun of her. It's to protect, not control, just for sugar honey iced tea and giggles. Write in your diary, it's to protect. It has purpose. The varying of suffering that these ladies thus far that I've shown can be avoided, could have been avoided. In another time, I don't know if it's even possible now. This video is not for anybody right now, because I personally don't think it's salvageable. That's just me. But at some point in time in the distant future, somebody might come across this and they might take it for a spin just to see. But remember, this walled garden has purpose. It's not about control.
They only want to be with you like for sexual reasons. And it's like, I just would want to have something with somebody that is like real. And I just feel like nothing is like really real anymore. It just kind of sucks. I mean, I would do it again. I would. I think me just, doing it and like facing like a fear. I don't know how guys do it. Like, it's so like scary approaching people that you don't know, but I don't know.
Yeah, you're approaching a total stranger. It could be a serial. Amongst other things, worse or less worse. Walled garden is to keep you from having to do these things. It's not safe out here. I don't understand why y'all don't understand that.
I just guess I should be happy in general. Like, I was fine without him. I'll be fine with him. And yeah.
If she says so. There's a book called The Secret Garden by Frances Burnett. It's about a young girl who lost both of her parents and she was shipped off to live with her uncle. The uncle was wealthy, he had a full estate with a walled garden that was actually neglected for years for whatever reason. And the little girl who was considered, bratty and petulant and all those other terms for being a rotten little girl, she found herself trying to restore the garden the synopsis was that with her restoring the neglected garden, she experienced significant personal growth. She was able to experience growth even after the loss of her parents because she was protected within the confines of her uncle's estate. If she lost both of her parents and was on the street, she'd be food for the street. But the fact that her uncle was able to provide protection and she was actually not inundated with the world, she was caught up in nature. She was actually able to recover and actually be a viable wife to somebody. I'm taking a little bit of liberty with that, but I still believe that the fact that she was isolated after she lost her parents, which was a walled garden, the fact that she was able to not focus on trying to survive, she was able to, quote unquote, heal herself and actually ponder. What they say, take a trip to the woods is good for the mind because you're not inundated with the sights and the sounds of the hustle and bustle of the world. She was provided that through the walled garden that her uncle was able to provide for. Gonna talk a little bit more about the negatives of being outside of the walled garden.
Sex, I had sex with a grown man, and I got pregnant the first time I had sex, and then I had to get an abortion. So that kind of me up. That was like started my downhill spiral. I got into a fight. I was on probation from in and out of juvie and just wilding out, you know. I didn't understand what was going on, but clearly I was in, you know, crying out for help. It was crazy.
Does she seem like she is inside a walled garden or is she way outside of a walled garden thus far?
When I was like, I was in a little thing with like 8 grown men one time. It was crazy.
Wow.
And then I was on house arrest, and I was supposed to go to this anger management class, and I didn't go. I went to this gas station, and these picked me up that I didn't know, and I went to their house. They gave me Grey Goose and orange juice. I never had that, and they just kept coming in.
Is what she just described more likely to happen within the confines inside, more likely to happen, or outside the walled garden more likely to happen?
And then at one point I looked up, it was just standing around me. It was crazy. But they knew I was, you know, that's like something that I always stress. Every nigga knew how old I was, and they didn't give a so.
Yeah. Outside of the walled garden, nobody gives a. Outside of the walled garden, you are a stranger, and there are individuals that will go above and beyond to treat you as such, especially as a female. I don't understand this. Oh, well, they should have known better. How was they raised? If they're strangers to you, how was they raised? Why do you assume that they were raised correctly? Who verified that they were raised correctly before what occurred?
But I went through a really dark place with that because I didn't understand how to make money outside of selling my body. Like, it was very difficult. That change is hard.
So how?
25.
Okay.
26. So I stopped in 2021. In the beginning of 2021 was the last time, and it was $3,500. But it wasn't good, and I realized, like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. Like, you could do something else.
I don't think I have to say anything else. I think what she describes speaks for itself. Okay, little disclaimer. They are fully clothed. You will see, but I want to start this off with making sure it's known they are fully clothed. Now, you don't think she doesn't feel vulnerable? Did it seem like she could stop anything from occurring? Outside of that venue, behind closed doors, do you think she could stop anything? I don't know. She seems very vulnerable to me. Very vulnerable. Not super more vulnerable than any other female. I'm just saying, she seems very vulnerable. The walled garden has purpose. Going from one walled garden to another walled garden, do not pass. I need to get out there and have fun. Is for your betterment. I, yeah, when I first saw that, I was like, wow. And then she had she had the face like, oh, this was fun, but I'd pay to be one of them worms that you put in the ear in order to be a telepath from some movie. I don't know. I can't remember.
The adult industry, babe, like, I need to let people understand. I remember, like, my first scene where I was going to do my first scene, and I was downstairs, and there was a girl doing her scene. She'd just come back after a little while. About 3 or 4 guys, I think it was, batterying her, and she was shitting herself everywhere, man. And they were laughing about it. They was like...
So, the walled garden is archaic, barbaric, misogynist, and any other term you want to throw at it. But what she does describe happening to another young lady doesn't warrant rethinking about getting behind a walled garden. I mean, she's in tears just thinking about it. So, what about the actual person who was going through it? Never mind what she's about to say.
Rabbit droppings on the floor again. Like, I'm just about to do my first scene. Do you know what I mean? 19-year-old girl.
19.
And I literally shit myself, babe. I was like, oh my...
Welcome, 19-year-old. This is what she's stepping into. Why? Why would anybody willingly step into this? And then be so disturbed by it being brought to tears. Why is this the best option outside of a father seeking out a family that had sons for her to marry to avoid this?
My God, and it's not pretty. You got to do these things called enemas and douches, like where you've got to stick things up you to get it all out. And
And then, you know, the whole violating divine feminine energy, you know, like it's a sacred exchange, babe. You know what I mean? Like sex now, like.
So it's divine and sacred now, but back then, what was it? When she was 19.
We know that it's a sexual exchange, but then the way that it's so abusive, like it's mad. But anyway, I went to do my scene and I was so scared because I fucking pure white bed and all this, and I'm just like, oh my God, you know what I mean? The worst things are going through my head, babe. And I remember the guy who I was working with, and it sounds weird, but he was like, can everyone leave the room? Because he was like, you okay? I was like, no, I'm really nervous because it's my first one. And luckily he'd worked with girls that had done their first scenes like that before. And he was like, everyone leave the room. And he was just trying with me, and I was in so much pain, babe. And he was just like, don't worry, we'll sort it. And then the camera rolled, and it was so painful that the guy expected me to the point of me passing out. I don't watch any of my stuff back, but I know I passed out on that scene. So
So control of the father is terrible, but control of a total stranger in the midst of, as she described, a violent act is doable.
would have been basically someone who was unconscious. And I remember coming back to after, like you know, coming back, and I don't know how many minutes it was, but when I did come back, I remember looking at him and I was like, oh, like this, and I was just like, whoa, do you know what I mean? But you can't stop. You just carry on with the scene. And I remember after, like, literally, babe, like grabbing him and being like, thank you, like for fixing me. I'm just like, what the fuck? Because that's the kind of mindset you have, babe. You are thanking people for stopping you from pain, and you're not realizing that you're in pain.
When has a daughter, do daughters thank their fathers for helping them sidestep any pain? Is that something that actually happened? I see a lot of videos where the father said, leave dude alone, he's bad, and she stayed with him and she lost her life. But I have yet to see a video where a daughter thanked the father for saying, leave that dude alone. She left him alone. 7, 8, 9 years later, she goes back to him and said, Dad, thank you. I'm so glad you told me to leave that boy alone, because he ended up deleting the next girl. Yeah, she's thanking him. She's thanking him. Do fathers get thanked?
And you're just kind of like diminishing yourself and pushing yourself more to levels. And there's girls that will do bigger levels than you, babe. And if you don't do them levels, you won't get booked. Do you know what I'm saying?
So when it comes to money, you're willing to endure. But when it comes to your safety at the loss of your autonomy, not having that. Okay. That makes sense. I have another story, Rappuccini's Daughter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. So the story takes place in Italy, the time and place really doesn't matter. But a young student is attending a school in a connecting structure. There's a walled garden that is being ran by a doctor, Dr. Rappuccini. I think that's saying that right. He's a botanist. He cultivates exotic and poisonous plants. And his daughter tends to these flowers, Beatrice. The student, Giovanni, becomes infatuated with her because he's been observing her from afar, and he finds his way to the garden. Now, he had been warned when he got accepted into the school to stay away from Dr. Rappuccini, designated as having a sinister nature. Giovanni notices that Beatrice has a toxic effect on living things. When she touches plants or insects, they die. He keeps his distance, but he's still not swayed from staying away from her. But over time, because he's around her within a walled garden, he also takes on the characteristics of Beatrice. Giovanni's mentor and Dr. Rappuccini's rival provides an antidote to cure Beatrice. But the antidote actually ends up killing her. She takes the antidote, but as she's dying, Dr. Rappuccini welcomes the love between his two creatures, his daughter and her suitor, Giovanni, who was transformed so that now he can be a true and worthy companion to Beatrice. As I interpret the story, it was deliberate of Dr. Rappuccini to be engulfed in poisonous plants. Having a daughter, it was a way to control who would enter the garden. Once finding out what she was capable, he was in a position to prove that he wanted to commit to her. He's protecting his daughter so that someone he saw fit to be with his daughter would not only be intelligent, because in order to even know of the garden, he had to be a student at the school. Then, to ignore the warnings from other individuals, he doubly proved himself. And then, seeing what she was capable of, and he still stayed, he was twice proven to be worthy to be with his daughter. That is the purpose of the walled garden. To make sure the daughter is protected, to make sure the wife is protected from the outside dangers. Nothing more, nothing less. Notice one of the longer ones. Thank you, and I bid you adieu.